Those of you that don't know, because I know we've had a growing fan base, especially on her video side, Enzo Orlando and I go way back. So Enzo and I were at Kansas State University on Show Radio a few years ago, and Enzo's show debuted right after mine on Saturday mornings.
Yeah, we did. We were the back-to-back combo. There'd be times where I would come in, for my show, hang out with you, and then you would go on my show, or we'd like switch out. You would do a lot of that. But it was great times, at BSR. A lot of fun memories, doing our shows and everything. All the guests we had. It was pretty fun, doing it even during the times during COVID. I think we were just, still able to get it done and still produce content.
Yeah, so listen, me and Enzo agree a lot. We disagree a lot. So let's get into our first conversation today. We're going to start with the National Football League. And Enzo, we're going to start with my team. The Super Bowl, not only 52, but reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl 59 world champion Philadelphia Eagles. Enzo, I said going into the game, I said, listen, everybody is doubting Jalen Hurts. Everybody is downing this Eagles team. They're saying A.J. Brown's reading a book on the sideline. They're saying Jalen Hurts can't win big games. They're saying that Nick Sirianni is a big dumb doofus and can't coach a football team. And all I said was all of these people in the media were wrong, wrong, wrong. This Eagles team, in my opinion, since week 4, they only lost one time. That was in Washington. That was the game that Kenny Pickett had to come in and replace, obviously, an injured Jalen Hurts. This was one of the most dominating teams in the National Football League all year long. And I'll be honest with you, I was surprised with how we blew out Kansas City, but I wasn't that surprised at the result because we had the best team in football and on the offensive and defensive lines.
I can totally agree with you that. And especially in the Super Bowl game, the Eagles dominated on both sides of the ball. I know the Chiefs were kind of able to hold Saquon, but they weren't able to stop Jalen Hurts. I mean, he deserved that Super Bowl MVP. And just look at the Chiefs. Everyone hyped them up. The whole Travis Kelsey, Taylor Swift, Mahomes, all that. I think NFL fans are currently sick of it. But the Chiefs did not execute well in that Super Bowl. The defense of the Eagles just they knew how to play Patrick Mahomes, and then the Chiefs had no defense to really stop the Eagles at all, really, other than they were, let's just stop Saquon because he's rushing for like close to 200 yards a game, but just stopping one guy is not enough when it comes to an offense.
To me, listen, it's crazy. Me and you have spent a lot of time, especially from our days in Cleveland, talking about head coaches. We know how many head coaches the Browns have had in the past 20 years. Um, even in Philadelphia, right? Nick Sirianni was criticized, and everybody in Philadelphia wanted to get rid of him, a lot like Ryan Day at Ohio State. I was the only person in the Philadelphia fan base, I feel like, defending Nick Sirianni this whole time. I said, this guy's made 2 Super Bowls. He's won every single year he's been a head coach in this league. I don't care about the amount of talent. The ability for Nick Sirianni to bring this team together after the epic collapse that was the 2023 season, following a destruction of a defense by Coach Pencil, as I like to call him, and Matt Patricia. What an incredible story.
Yeah, it was a incredible story. The week before the Super Bowl, or once we found out that it was going to be Chiefs Eagles for the second time in the past 3 years, everyone was like, "Oh, it's going to be the Chiefs." It's just how the national media is. Just they fall in love with some superstar like Patrick Mahomes or Steph Curry, and then they just gotta throw it down their throat and just say, "Oh, yeah, I don't see Philly. I feel like Kansas City. They only lost one game. They dominated the playoffs. I mean, let's just say this: the Chiefs just got lucky, not during the regular season a lot, and in the playoffs too, especially that game against Buffalo in the AFC Championship game.
See, I know that they had some calls go their way. They did get the block kick against Denver, and they won all those one possession games. And I get it, and I understand the narrative. I've never been one to really blame officials or say a team got lucky. Like, I'm just against that. I think that Kansas City was just the best team in the AFC all year long. Um, and again, for Buffalo, like, it's funny, right? Because they're the ones, along with the Green Bay Packers, that are trying to outlaw the brotherly shove, and yet all Buffalo does is the bobsled, and they don't execute it as well as Philadelphia. Like that to me is the story. I think Buffalo's been blaming, they blame Stephon Diggs, they blame Wesley Frazier, they blame the refs, they blame the overtime rules. Like at some point, Buffalo has to look themselves in the mirror and say, how are we going to get past Kansas City and stop blaming other people and figure out what the real issue is, which to me, to be honest with you, I think is Sean McDermott.
It's a hot take right there. I mean, he's been able to lead the Chiefs closely well and not get out. I mean, that could be the reason why.
But it doesn't
Um,
matter. I mean,
yeah,
here's my takeaway, Enzo. Sean McDermott is a good head coach. He's a defensive minded head coach. I compare him to like Mark Jackson when he was with the Golden State Warriors, right? Good coach. Never could get the team over the hump. And that's what I sort of feel like with McDermott. When they lost that divisional round game to Cincinnati 2 years ago when Brian Dable was still on the staff, I said at that time, I think you move on McDermott and you go with Dable because Dable was on his way to New York. And I'm sorry for the Giants being a disaster they are. Brian Dable got Daniel Jones to the playoffs. We know he can coach football.
yeah. I mean, I would say going into this season, I would say McDermott's on the hot seat for the Bills. But I just think, I mean, it's still kind of early. You just got to see how this offseason play out, see how the teams start to look in the early weeks, and then go from there. I mean, I know Buffalo's similar to a lot of teams in the Midwest, like the Browns and the Lions. They're just that team, could never get, to win the big one, just like in the early 90s with Jim Kelly, four straight Super Bowls and no championships. And now it's been about 4 or 5 AFC games and they can't get to the Super Bowl. It's just the heartbreak that those fans deal with, and then they're also going to have a new stadium soon. So I think that maybe a new venue might be the difference. Some people say that sometimes.
So Enzo, I don't mean to come across like a knowledgeable Eagles fan, Super Bowl tooting my own horn, a hole here. But my team pays Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Wayne Johnson, Jordan Mailata. They're about to pay Zach Bond. Obviously, Jalen Carter's going to get paid here down the line here. I think Jalen Carter is the next Aaron Donald in the NFL, personally. But my point is, I hear teams like Cincinnati, they come out and they say, "Oh, we can't afford T. Higgins," or Baltimore saying, "Oh, we don't have the secondary," or San Francisco saying we got to move off Debo Samuel, right? They just dealt him to Washington for a fifth round pick. I don't get, the NFL is not baseball, right? It has a salary cap. Everybody has the same cap. Why do teams like Philadelphia, who have a tremendous general manager in Howie Roseman, who I think right now you can make a case after that Super Bowl win is a Hall of Famer? My team pays stars all over the field, both offense, defense, special teams, and we got teams like Cincinnati saying they can't afford tickets. I'm sorry. Yes, you can. Figure it out. Stop making excuses and figure it out. Like that to me is the new solution in the NFL. Just go solve your issues.
Yeah. We all know it's just Mike Brown as an owner in the NFL. He's been known for being a notorious cheap owner. A lot of the times. I just think a lot of it has to do with the team's market size and everything. I mean, obviously Philly's in a bigger market than Cincinnati, so they definitely have a little bit more leverage to spend and maybe like get big players to come and play in a big market
Yeah, but
compared
the
to like
market size doesn't matter though in football. I mean, the only thing that matters is like, in Texas and Nevada, like there's no state tax. That I get, but yet Jerry Jones says he's all in and decides to hire Brian Schottenheimer and doesn't spend a penny. So, like the NFL is designed for teams like the Packers, the Bills, even Kansas City, right? It isn't a huge market. I think that's the best part about the NFL is you can have teams in small markets and teams in big markets like New York and Chicago who are complete disasters and messes.
yeah. I know like the Bears are a disaster. I know their owner for the long time she recently passed away, so her condolence to their family. I don't know what's going on in Chicago. The New York teams, they're both disasters. The Jets situation with Aaron Rodgers, the Giants situation is just a mess. What are they going to do at quarterback? And and they play in New Jersey too. So some people don't even claim them that they're New York, even though it's the New York City metro area. Um, it just, I think a lot of it has to do with owners, GMs. I think a lot of times owners usually have a lot of big say on what goes on in the NFL with their teams.
Yeah, and you mentioned the draft and you mentioned the quarterback position. So let's get into it. So at the time of this recording, about 48 hours ago, Matthew Stafford decided to stay with the Rams. And the Rams are a weird team to me, Enzo, because every year it feels like they say that they're rebuilding and then they just run it back. Um, I thought that actually the Giants, who you mentioned, were going to make a play at Matthew Stafford. Because my takeaway is Brian Dable and Joe Shane, after what they occurred with the Hard Knocks offseason and Saquon Barkley and all that, like they need to win, right? They can't wait around for a Shador Sanders or a Cam Ward if he somehow gets past Tennessee or Cleveland and hope that he's their guy. I think they go after a veteran quarterback. Um, like, do they go after an Aaron Rodgers? Do they go after Kirk Cousins? That's sort of my take. Is like if I'm Dable, I'm saying I don't have time to wait. If we don't win this year, I'm fired.
Yeah, we can understand like they're not really in the way, but it just seems like the Giants ownership they want to draft a young quarterback. I mean, they gave Shador Sanders custom Nike cleats with the Giants logo on it. So I think sometimes it depends on what the organization do versus what maybe the coach and GM wants to do. Like just the owners just have a lot of say in what the team should do.
Now, I think, do you agree with me that Cam Ward, it sounds like just, reading the tea leaves, is probably going to go number one to Tennessee?
From what I'm seeing, he might. I think it all depends on what Tennessee needs. That feels like Tennessee is a big mess. I mean Ward, is he's the best quarterback in this draft. I mean, he could go number one, or he could, be at the Browns' position for them to take him. And I say if he's there, take him. I just think with the things with Shador, there's just some, red flags with him. Obviously, having your dad, who was a Hall of Famer, defensive back, and now a head coach who's kind of been, there for you the whole time and everything, guiding you. Nothing against, how Dion raises his kids or anything, but just the whole Colorado hype in college football, hyping, thinking that they would be able to compete with the big teams like Ohio State, Alabama, and Texas, and then they're showing that they really couldn't. And I really think what made Shador was probably having a good receiver like Travis Hunter. I can see that similarity with Johnny Manziel with Texas A&M because he had Mike Evans. So I see a little bit of comparison to that. I just see like drama coming in to whatever organization he goes to. It'll just be kind of like a mess, and you'll have Deion Sanders there the whole time, telling them what that team should do because I'm Deion Sanders, and as you know, in Deion's career, he had the biggest ego, and he still has that ego in his coaching, and then whatever on. Obviously, Shador is probably the best son he has for to be in the NFL. And he's a little bit undersized. I don't think Shador really had much of an arm, really. I think kind of scores a lot, but I don't know how well he'll do against an NFL defense. So I just think there's a lot of questions. Game and Shador.
I think Cleveland has to win this year, or Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are going to be gone. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation on what they will do it too. I'll tell you what I would do, which would be, again, we all know what's going on with the Myles Garrett situation. I think the Browns should trade him. I would move off Myles Garrett. I would go select that Abdul Carter with the number two overall pick. I'd probably bring back Jameis or even give a call out to Joe Flacco. I'd be a little bit nervous about a Kirk Cousins just because I think Kirk Cousins looked absolutely cooked last year in Atlanta. I think there's a reason why they went with Michael Penix, and to me now it looks like even a smarter decision. And I think Kirk, agreed somewhat to come back to Atlanta as their backup quarterback as well. So I don't know what they do. I've said like the Browns, like you look at Washington, right? Like Jane Daniels came in and completely flipped that franchise overnight, and it can happen. But the problem is, I don't see Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, even that Jalen Milrow. Like, I don't think any of these guys have that potential to flip a franchise around like that moving forward. So my takeaway is the Browns need a lot of pieces, and I think that you sort of do a soft tank for an Arch Manning or other quarterbacks that come up in next year's class.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. I know Abdul Carter, had there was a report on the injury, a foot injury he had. So he wasn't able to participate in the scouting combine. I don't know about his pro day either. So there's a little rest of that. I mean, you could have the possibility of maybe getting Will Howard in the second round. Which I
Second,
mean, that
wow,
would
that I think
I
that's
think
high.
I think I you
And
know
so I think that's high.
I
I think
he
Will
led the
Howard's about a
Buckeyes to the national championship.
yeah, but I
I
mean,
mean,
how
the
many?
only loss was Michigan.
Yeah, but how many quarterbacks, Enzo, have we seen been a great college quarterback because they have these great receivers, this great offensive line, this great talent, in Ohio State, and then they come into the NFL and they fall flat on their face. That's what I think Will Howard is a right-handed Tim Tebow. I'm being honest with you. I see a college quarterback, and that's it. I don't see anything special out of him.
I mean, I can see Howard. If he doesn't work out as a starter, he could be a solid backup for his career, like Colt McCoy. I could see him doing something like that.
To me, though, that'd be a waste of a second round pick.
It just depends on what's available. If there's a
Yeah,
better defensive
yeah.
player, O line, maybe. I think O line always second round, not a bad decision.
No, I agree. I think the
And
Browns need to put some heavy
yeah,
resources into that offensive line. We know how beat up it was a year ago, and obviously, and I said at the time, I thought the loss of Bill Callahan was heavily underplayed in the media. I thought it was one of the biggest misses, obviously, as a coaching staff the entire year was letting him go. Like that clip from the Brandsworth podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brandsworth podcast right here on YouTube.